Brian, welcome to the Side Hustle Show.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
You bet. So today joined by Brien Gearin from ricochettdm.com. It is a digital marketing agency that Brian started 4 or 5 years ago as a side hustle, took it full time a couple years ago, is now a six-figure agency. And we're going to dive into what it took to get to that point today. But maybe we dial it back like we often do to the early days, to the idea, the inspiration to even start a side hustle, and specifically a side hustle in this space.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. So, my inspiration, my motivation was first and foremost necessity. I guess I should say first and foremost was a fact. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Back in high school, I was mowing lawns during the day and playing baseball at night, always thinking I was going to be a professional baseball player. But it was at that point that I really fell in love with making my own money and calling the shots. And then fast forward to about 2016, 2017. I still knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was working a full time job in sales slash marketing. And then necessity came around where it was like, I need to get into something. I would need to be an entrepreneur if I'm going to be happy in my life. My happiness for myself and my wife, my kids were first and foremost. And if I'm going to be unhappy in my career, then chances are I'm going to have trouble being happy at home too. So it was really necessity that precipitated it. And looked at starting a digital business and starting it on the side. So while still earning money from a job, but also building something and trying to scale it, starting slow and building it up on the side.
I think that resonates with a lot of people. This feeling of like, well, I don't really love where I'm at, and the grass is always greener. And but then it kind of becomes this idea or analysis paralysis of like, well, there's so many options out there. It sounds like you were kind of honing in on something that was
Mm-hmm.
location independent to a certain extent, something that could be done online evenings and weekends, and then happened upon, well, what if I help other people with their marketing? I have a little bit of sales and marketing background. What if I turned around and sold that as a freelance service, essentially?
I was in sales and I started shifting myself more towards digital marketing and found myself heading towards, full time agency ownership. And that's where we are now.
Okay. Was there a moment of just putting yourself out there and saying, I know what I'm talking about. I could do this for other people. Was there a period of upskilling and learning how to do something? Like, curious, what came first, like the offer or the the skill set or the client? Where it's a lot of things that have to be in alignment.
Yeah, it was the stars aligning. I kind of found my way into this through I was following a financial blogger who I really got into personal finance in the 2015, 2016 timeframe where it was really time to buckle down and learn how to be financially responsible. And I got very interested in that. And it was a friend of this financial blogger who was starting a course on Facebook ads. And I had just taken a 6 month course through a startup company in San Francisco, where it was basically a all around digital marketing course where you learn everything from running Google ads, learning basic HTML for web design, learning about what goes into graphic design, running Facebook ads, general social media advertising, email marketing. And after this ended, I swear it was divine intervention because the blogger that I was following put a plug out for one of his other financial blogging friends who had just created a course on how to run Facebook ads on behalf of small local businesses as a side hustle to make an extra $1,000 or $2,000 a month.
Okay.
Um,
This
and it
is
was at
Bobby.
this,
What's the name of the course? Like, I know this course. Like, it's come up before.
yeah, the Facebook side hustle course, and that was created by Bobby Hoyt and Mike Yonda. They're the awesome owners of Laptop Empires, and they're still my mentors to this day. They taught me everything I know, even just from the basics of how to run and create and handle a Facebook ad to building and scaling a small agency built off the back of running digital ads for small businesses.
Okay.
Um,
And Bobby was like millennialmoneyman.com or something.
yes,
Like, it sounds,
he's the
we've,
millennial money man. Yep,
I know
he's
we've
the
crossed
man.
paths at FinCon for sure.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. So it was at that time, right between finishing that course, and it was at that stage where I'm like, all right, there's something I can do here. I out of the students in that course, we had the ability to run live Facebook ads on behalf of this company. And out of like 5,000 students, my ads finished in the top 5 results for Facebook ads. So that's where I saw that, okay, that was pretty fun. I'm putting my English degree to work with copywriting. And apparently I can do this all right, even though it's a very small snapshot. And I thought to myself, now this is something I could turn into something. So I completed
Sorry,
that course.
sorry, say that again.
And
So they give you like a little bit of budget to advertise for them, and it's like an
yep,
internal contest.
Yep, you had, I think it was either 3 or 4 weeks of running live Facebook ads to the real general public that is promoting this course.
Okay.
And so it was a really cool real world, real life scenario where you're going to create these ads and it's not a mock up. They're going out to the real world. And it was
Yeah.
basically lead generation for this course. So it was
Okay.
kind of free labor on their part, but at the same time, it got me some experience and showed me that this is something I could do. And it was fun. It was, it wasn't the hardest thing in the world. I knew there was a lot more to learn in that vein.
Yeah.
But that's where I finished that. And then like literally 4 days later, I got an email that was telling me about this course that Bobby Hoyt and Mike Yonda created that teaches you how to do exactly what I just thought to myself would be a good place to get into. So
Okay.
yeah, and from there it took off.
Okay. That's a really creative way to test things out and say, well, you don't have a customer yet. We'll be your first customer, and here,
Yep.
go do some promotion for us. And it turned out that you had a knack for applying what you learned, and okay, we can do this. From
Yep.
there to finding another client. So that I want to highlight. Look, I have the ability to learn new skills, and not saying I'm static. Well, this is what I went to school for. This is what this is what I got hired to do for my day job. So that's it, I guess. Like, so you have the ability to learn new skills and making some proactive investments on that front. And then, so that kind of gives you the confidence to say, okay, I think I could do this. Talk to me about the journey from, okay, this reskilling or re-education to a first like paying customer outside of that.
It was a long journey, to be honest with you. From the time that I started, from the time I started the course until actually landing a client was about 11 months. And Mike and Bobby always like to give me a tough time in the mentorship group because it's like not a tough time, but they say, if you stick with it, like look at Brien, it took him 11 dang months to sign someone. But that was my learning curve in learning basically how to sell, because it wasn't just now that I have this technical skill that I know I can do and I can use to help others grow their business. Then it's a matter of going out and convincing people you can do it. So it took me a little while, and and all the while, taking that course, getting the technical skill of actually learning how to create, run, and manage Facebook ads, to going out and selling it was a totally different ballgame.
Yeah, I
So it's
appreciate
been
you
pretty
sharing
crazy.
that 11-month time frame, because I don't know that a lot of people would stick with it that long. And we
Mm-hmm.
had a similar story with Benny Shu, who's selling, Teespring T-shirts. Like, my first 22 campaigns failed to even break even, but on that 23rd, that's when I started to see the light. And it's like, I think a lot of people would have given up after
Mm-hmm.
two, three, four, swings and misses. This just isn't for me. Do you mind sharing what ultimately worked? What convinced somebody to say yes?
When I got into this, I said, there is no plan B. I'm going to make this work and I'm going to stick with it. And the only way I fail is if I quit. So yeah, what ended up happening, I got my first client from, basically, it's called the LinkedIn method, where you're prospecting on LinkedIn. So it was a local real estate agent here who, he was, he probably shouldn't have been in the business. He wasn't, he was maybe as green as I was, and respectively in his business. But it really got me over that hump of, okay, now I know how to sell this. Someone believed in me and gave me an opportunity to run lead gen for them. And then after that, my biggest method of client acquisition came from joining my local chamber of commerce. I realized that I was one of those people where I'm the most comfortable when I'm out and meeting someone in person, getting, building that know, like, and trust factor with them. But getting out and meeting people and just having, listening to them and understanding what their problems were when it comes to digital marketing, and really honing in on what I can offer these people, really was big for me. So I joined my local chamber of commerce. The president of the chamber asked if I'd do a lunch and learn on Facebook ads. She's like, "This is fascinating, and we always get questions on Facebook, and nobody has any answers for it." So I said, and Mike and Bobby always said, "Just say yes, go out and do it."
Yeah.
So I hadn't done any public speaking since I was in college, but I was like, "All right, let's do it." So I had 15 people show up at this lunch and learn. I booked 8 meetings off of it, and my next 4 clients came through that.
Wow.
So
That's
that's when I
awesome.
really figured out that, okay, this might be a good pathway to start growing this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen people take the same strategy online with, virtual lunch and learn, like
Yep.
virtual workshops. Like, hey, we're going to come and do the hour-long presentation. And we had Dustin Lean on the podcast, similar digital marketing agency for, direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands. And it doesn't even have to have a sales pitch, because it's like you are establishing your credibility and authority and expertise in this area where if people have questions now, naturally you're the go-to person for that. So I love that strategy, trying to think of, well, who are your target customers already doing businesses, where are they already hanging out? It was an interesting way to get in front of them. I do want to go back really quick, because you mentioned the LinkedIn method and you connected with this realtor or real estate agent. How did that happen? Was that like cold outreach, inviting somebody to connect? Is this publishing content on LinkedIn? What does that part look like?
Yeah. So it's actually a method that I learned through the mentorship group in the Facebook Side Hustle course. And one of the client acquisition methods and one of the coaches they brought on taught you how to prospect on LinkedIn. So everything from how to optimize your profile for searchability and for basically turning your LinkedIn profile into like a sales page, making it all about what someone who's coming to see you, making it about their pain points and how you can help them. And then also, using Sales Navigator as a reach out strategy. So sending out, I think it was you in Sales Navigator, you got up to 100 connection requests you can send out per day. So picking a niche or picking a certain area and sending out requests. And then he would help you with, once you connect with people, the messaging and how to connect with them through LinkedIn Messenger, and then get them from a messenger conversation onto the phone.
Do you remember what your initial outreach was like? Well, in terms of like what specifically you might put in your initial, request to connect, or in your initial message.
Yeah, yeah. So initially, like when you send out a connection request, you'd attach a little note that says, "Hello, so and so. I would love to connect with you. I'm looking to build my professional network in, like, if it's real estate, in the local real estate market in whatever part of town you're in."
Okay.
Then you say, "Sincerely, Brian," and then you send that out, and those who would connect with you, you'd get your connection confirmed, and then
Yeah.
you give it a day or two, and then you hop into Messenger and say, "Hey, so and so, thank you so much for connecting. I really appreciate it." And then typically, I think it was at that point you end with like a question, so something that would request them to answer, or not. And I don't mean something like annoying and salesy, like, "Do you have 10 minutes for a call?" Like, yeah, obviously that never works, and everybody hates getting that, right? We get our inboxes blown up all the time with stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think it was something along the lines of, asking them their favorite method of lead gen, um,
Okay.
something along those lines, where it's not, it's not annoying, it's not overpowering, it's not salesy. It's just asking a general question like, "Hey, I was curious, how do you handle your lead gen?" Or, what's your favorite of lead gen in your business, or your favorite way to produce leads in your business?
Yeah, it's just
And
conversational. It almost positions them as the expert and say, "Oh, well, let me share you a cool tip," or something like.
right,
Um,
exactly. And
and
then naturally
meanwhile,
that conversation would hopefully flow into how they do it. And a lot of times Facebook or Instagram would get mentioned, and then I'd be able to drop a fresh nug of, how, oh, okay, so you're doing this on Facebook. Have you tried this method? Or have you, what's the budget you use, if I could ask? Because if you extend your budget here, or maybe even lessen it here, maybe that's something that could go a long way in terms of your improving your lead gen. So providing some sort of value up front, and with no expectation of anything in return, it really gets people to start knowing, liking, and trusting you a lot quicker than if you're to just jump down their throat with the sales pitch.
yeah, totally. And then meanwhile, your profile is optimized or set up in such a way that it reads like a landing page or like a sales page
Yep,
for this ideal customer. Like, oh,
precisely.
okay. So if they do click through to that, they kind of can get a sense for what you do and who you do it for. And you can
Yep,
even
and then
tailor it. Like if you're in a period of reaching out to realtors, you can tailor that to, be specific to that industry. And if you're reaching out to somebody
yep.
in a different industry, like, oh, okay, I can tweak my profile around to really make it seem like I'm the go-to guy for this space. Um,
Exactly. And then that also gets into the content marketing where you can, LinkedIn is still kind of the Wild West when it comes to organic reach with your posts. So if you have engaging and valuable posts that you put out there on a regular basis, whether it's every day, every other day, a couple of times a week, as long as they're good, they're engaging and their value, then all the people that you add as connections, if they, especially if they scroll through and stop over your page or over your post, or they engage with it, they're going to be seeing a lot more of your stuff in the coming weeks. So it's a great way to break into content marketing on LinkedIn as well.
and do you have an example of a post or type of post that does well for you over there?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this year, a lot of stuff that's worked really well is posts around iOS 14. So we get questions on that all the time. So being able to put a post out there that either dispels a common rumor or common myth about it, or just informs you on, the how the conversion window has shrunk. Whereas a lot of times the articles you read on across any news channel isn't really going to mention that, or especially if you're not involved in the space, you're not going to understand what that means. So breaking things down like that a little bit are the type of content that are going to help a business owner or those who are in the niche that you're trying to speak to.
Okay, yeah. So some current events or timely topics in your field of expertise. On that topic, like I mean, that's the elephant in the room when it comes to Facebook ads. It's like, well, now you get no attribution and all these Apple privacy things. Like, has that impacted your ability to run this business? Have you lost clients as a result? Like, what's been the impact there?
It has been interesting. It's honestly, it's kind of varied per account and per area that we are advertising in. So I'll tell you. So one of our clients was in Australia. We had a large hair brand in Australia, and the impact of iOS 14 dropping was huge. Our reporting on our conversion side was way off. Now, luckily, we had a server side reporting system on their end to where I could log in and look and see what the actual lead reports or sale reports were. But the problem is on the Facebook side, on my dashboard where I have the quickest access, it was not accurate. It could be off from in lead generation, it was off anywhere from, you know, 5 to 20 leads per week. And then in the conversion space where they had kind of a front end offer, that was like $150 front end offer.
Yeah,
And those conversions, the people who purchased that offer, those numbers were completely off. They just weren't reliable on the Facebook end. Again, luckily we had them on their side, on the server side. But it threw a big wrench in the system. There, it was a huge pain in the butt. But then we have accounts stateside here where we're pretty big in the automotive space. So there was once iOS 14 dropped, we noticed anywhere from a 5 to 8 or 10 um, lead drop or lead discrepancy per week. Now it's been interesting as we went through 2021. I started noticing that discrepancy started dropping a little bit to where we were generally off only about 2 to 5 leads per week. And I know, speaking with Mike and Bobby, I know some of Mike's agency clients, my mentor. He said they really haven't seen a huge impact at all. So it's kind of been one of those things where it dropped, everybody freaked out. Some agencies, some people were seeing huge impacts, and other agencies and other business owners weren't seeing massive impacts.
yeah.
So it really depends on your industry, it depends on your location, and it depends on the type of campaigns you're running. Like for example, campaigns that are housed on Facebook, you're not really as impacted by that. It's the ones that take you like a conversion campaign to a landing page or to a ClickFunnels page or a website. Those are the ones that can be really impacted.
Yeah, so you're obviously still able to collect leads and conversions if those happen on your website. It's just a challenge on the attribution side, and then that throws
Yes.
the algorithmic optimization of those ads into a loop if they're not getting fed back the accurate conversion data on the back end.
Yep. Yep. That's the biggest thing is so let's say, In reality, you had 10 leads this week, but Facebook only recorded 4 of them because 6 of them came from opted out devices. The
Okay.
algorithm is going to look at that and say, "Oh my, so our lead totals are down." It's going to start making adjustments based on that number.
Yeah.
And that's where it can really get thrown off. Your numbers are just, you might have a really high CTR or click through rate, but your results are about half of what they really are on the Facebook side. So as an advertiser, you're going to look at that and be like, okay, well that's no bueno. It just throws everything off when there's that much of a discrepancy.
Yeah, and all of a sudden clients are saying, "Well, we're paying how much per lead now? You promised us this, or what? 2 years ago it was
Yep.
X amount." Like, well, hold
Yep.
on, sir. This is this is still happening, but
Right.
okay. Um, on that note, how do you figure out how much to charge for this? You're reaching out to people on LinkedIn. You finally get a realtor that raises his hand and says, "All right, sign me up." How do you figure out like, oh, okay, this is real. This is happening. Now I got to figure out how much to charge.
Yeah, yeah. So when I first started out, I started a little lower just to build my confidence. But now we are. It totally varies per client. So every client has different needs, different wants, different budgets, and different abilities to pay for their marketing. So our general ballpark for general Facebook and Instagram ads type of client account is $1,500 per month. Now, there are some clients who pay 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, depending on what they need or how many additional services they want. So my agency, we broke into also handling email marketing for our clients. And then recently, in the last 6 months or so, we added a partner on my team who handles our Google accounts. So Google advertising.
Oh, okay.
So we have different levels of fees for the additional services that people decide to bring on. But some clients they want to do a very minimal budget on Facebook, and what they're trying to do is not, they're not challenging funnels. They're not huge funnels. They really just want, like, if it's a local coffee shop, for example, and they only want to spend the bare minimum that we recommend of $500 per month on Facebook, and they want to run like a coupon campaign where people convert into collecting a coupon. So that would be, we'd probably charge in the ballpark of about $1,000 a month for that, 1,000 to 1,100. Um, and then hopefully they're bringing us on for email as well, where we, depending on email frequency and how many flows or things that they want in there. And generally on the local side, it's mostly newsletter marketing that we help with.
Okay.
So it's typically biweekly or monthly. And that averages anywhere from $300 to $500 per month.
Okay. Hey, that's helpful to hear for the just for the standpoint of 1,500 bucks a month. It may not take very many clients to replace your day job income or
Oh,
turn
for
this into
sure.
a full time thing. Was
Yep.
there and so they're spending that? That's like your fee, and then they're also spending whatever amount they set as their ads budget, and so it's like I don't want to do this myself. It seems complicated, or maybe I've tried in the past and it didn't work. I want to hire an expert to do this for me. So here's the agency fee for your expertise and setting up and split testing and all the stuff that goes into it. And then here's our ad spend budget on top of that, and then we're going to measure the results. And then I was going to ask. So you mentioned real estate, you mentioned automotive, you mentioned hair care. Is this just hey, I can once I know how to do this thing, I can do it for anybody, or is there a specialization or a handful of industries that you tend to focus on or you found better results with?
So when I started this out, I felt a lot of pressure to niche down. So for like the first like 8 months, I was like, I'm going all in on doing this for real estate agents. And then I quickly learned that it's a lot of agents, unless you're working with the top 1.5%. There's a lot of agents out there, no offense, real estate agents, but there's a lot of them out there that don't have a marketing budget, or they think they do and they really don't. Or they also have a tough time in their sales processes, following up with new leads that come in, staying on top of people that come in their front door.
Yeah.
And it was at that point where I was struggling to get traction in the real estate space that I was like, you know what? These skills are transferable across industries, and it honestly would be more fun to get to work with people in different industries, because I when I work with my clients, I learn a lot about their business. I have to, if I'm going to be their marketer, right? If I'm going to be putting their stuff out there on blast, and I have to know what I'm talking about and know about their business in order to come out with the right voice for it. So I decided to be industry agnostic, if you will, and put my stuff out there and help as many industries as I can. And my thought process was, maybe a niche will find me. And it's actually been interesting in the last about 6 to 8 months here. A niche kind of did find me where we really want to work with breweries and event centers, or breweries with adjacent event centers.
Oh,
We have a
okay.
system that's been working really well for lead generation, for booking weddings in the event center, as well as handling the brewery marketing. So whether it's brand awareness or traffic campaigns, running ads if they have concerts or local musicians that come in, or if they ever want to run like coupon ads, or claim this ad to get a free pretzel with a purchase of a beer. Um, so handling that, it's kind of the two pronged effect of lead generation for their event center, which is a huge moneymaker especially if they handle weddings, and then for the brewery, which is the anchor of their business is selling beer, selling their liquor products. So, and I had been working with a country club locally here to me and helping them book more meetings for newly engaged women within the last 12 months that are aged 25 to 50 that are probably on the market for a reception hall.
I like it. I mean, it's really interesting to hear both on the you people advertising really low ticket stuff like come get a pint versus come have your wedding here. I'm thinking like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
for a real estate agent, a lead could be, worth $20,000. So it's like, oh yeah, well, I'll invest some in marketing to get that lead.
Right.
I'll invest some money to get those brides in the door to book their wedding at our venue. Yeah, that is worth a whole lot versus like, okay, maybe they, versus like have a pretzel. Like it seems like, oh man, yeah, I got to do that. I got to make it up on volume. This is interesting to hear. You
Yeah,
can make it, you can make both ends of it work, and it's just kind of a
absolutely.
different
And
pitch.
And that's where on like for in that vein, the on the brewery side, those are typically ads that are more awareness based, like your general reach campaigns, engagement, or video views. Building up the online presence of the brewery and then helping them with their newsletter marketing. So I think that's a huge asset that a lot of local businesses in general, but a lot of breweries don't utilize as often or as regularly as they should, is their email list, because these are people who have signed up, whether on their website or through a loyalty program in the brewery, where they're telling you, I want to hear from you. I would like to see an update from you on, what musicians are in this weekend, or what's on tap this weekend.
Yeah,
What are
yeah,
you guys doing for Patty's Day or for Christmas that's upcoming? What are your hours? I think that's a great way to stay in contact with people that are your top customers. So on the brewery side, we don't do a ton of like the coupon ads unless they really want to, or a lot of conversion style campaigns. It's mostly just reach out campaigns, introducing your brewery to a newer or cold audience and bringing them into your world, getting them on your email list. So, like a lot of email list building campaigns, and staying in contact and getting people in your world through regular communication on email. That's the big benefit on the brewery side for the advertising and email.
yeah. And we've seen how Facebook will kind of throw in some social proof, with your friends who like Shadow Puppet Brewing or whoever. It's like, oh, okay, well, Nick already likes this. So it's like a
Yep.
warmer lead, 1 degree of separation removed versus, well, why is this showing up in my feed? And this has opened you up to, oh, it doesn't have to be local anymore. I could do this for anybody all over the country. Is that similar LinkedIn style outreach, or is it word of mouth? Like what's working on the marketing engine? Is it Facebook ads for you in this case? Like what's working for you to generate conversations and leads?
Yeah, so for me personally, it's mostly through my referral network right now. I have run Facebook ads for myself in the past, but that was before I had a set system in a specific area. It's my biggest thing when I was running ads was I was getting leads from all over the place, and they are typically, it's a cold audience, so it was people that weren't necessarily looking to hear from me, but maybe they were curious. And then it turned into, a lot of folks who had no clue what they were getting into, or that, hey, I just started a business and I have $3 to put into marketing. Can we work together? And I'd have to be like, no, I don't think we're a great fit, but I'm wishing you the best, and I want to hear from you down the road when you're ready to really invest in this. So for me, knowing my numbers, my best leads weren't coming from Facebook or from Instagram ads. They were really coming from creating my local network here and letting that refer out. So I've had clients all over the country. I've had that client in Australia, and it's mostly come through my referral network, and across a lot of different industries. So, and knowing where my leads come from, right now it's still the referral network.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking of, how can you do that, lunch and learn strategy on steroids? Could you show up to the brewery and event center conference and do a talk on
Mm-hmm.
digital marketing and like, okay, establish credibility in that way is, and because
Yeah.
imagine, I mean, the way you have it set up is recurring unless it's like, a limited time campaign or, maybe for the events, maybe it's somewhat seasonal, but like, okay, if I can get this client on today, it's not a one-off thing. It's like they keep coming back month after month after month. Do you find that people tend to stick around for a while as long as you're delivering results?
Yeah, absolutely. So my right now my longest tenured client came about, let's see, just about 8 months after I landed my first one, and he's still with me. So we're going on 4 years together.
Yeah.
My goal with my clients is a long term relationship because my jam is helping other people grow their business. I absolutely love seeing that, and I know how big a part marketing and lead generation is. And that's what I like to, that's what really gets me going. But at the same time, if I'm helping them grow, they're sticking with me for a long time, and I'm growing too. So that's my ultimate goal. So I have a pretty darn low churn rate, which I'm very proud of because we do really good work. And I now I have an assistant that works with me and another partner that handles my Google accounts. So we've been doing really well, and it's a big part of me. I came from a customer experience model, so I used to work down at the Cincinnati Reds when I was in college, and I learned all about customer experience from the guy who he was responsible for the big customer experience turnaround at Delta back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he was the head of customer experience at the Cincinnati Reds. So I learned all about, going the extra mile on behalf of your clients and not just being another agency, not just being another guy that provides a service, but actually providing a service that's actually going to, bring a smile to people, that's going to go the extra mile, whether it's, sending new client gifts or thank you letters or, working together anniversaries or, every
Okay.
time I
Okay.
sign a new client, I ask them when their birthday is.
Yeah.
Because I like to send a little card or maybe a little gift card or a little gift on their birthday. And, making sure that communication is a huge part of my business because in the marketing space, there's a lot of businesses or a lot of agencies where it's difficult to get in touch with someone. And I always pride myself on being accessible, putting the client first and making sure they're having a great experience while working with me too.
Yeah. Keep people happy. Make sure the word of mouth referral engine keeps spinning favorably in your direction. Because
Right.
business owners tend to know other business owners. And,
Hmm.
if Brien becomes the go to guy for that, hey, you got to, have you, I don't know, these conversations come up. Have you tried this? Oh, yeah, we're getting great results with working with this guy.
Yeah,
What?
and people do business with people. They like to do business with people. People don't want to do business with businesses. So when you put yourself, when you're the face of your company, when you are the one that your clients turn to, and they know you're going to be there for them, that puts them more at ease because they like you, they know you, and they trust you, right? And when you give them the ability to do business with a person, it's just like being friends, right? It doesn't have to be business on business. It's just friends doing business with friends.
Are you doing anything to incentivize those word of mouth referrals? Like, oh, I'll give you $200 off your next month's, contract or something like that?
It kind of depends on, if I have a great referral partner. I usually do like, I'll just cut you a check for $250 if you send someone my way or vice versa. I've had a couple different folks where I say, you got $100 gift card coming your way, or one of those Visa, use anywhere type of gift cards.
Okay.
So I like to reward those who do me which turns out to be a super solid when someone refers me a client because they typically stick around for a solid lifetime value, and I like to. I like to treat people the way I'd like to be treated. Not that I go out and do things expecting for anything in return, but it is just a nice gesture to give them a little thank you or, a nod their way for really looking out for you and supporting you.
Yeah, for sure. At So you're doing this on the side for, it sounds like, a couple years at least to this point. At what point do you feel comfortable calling it quits at the day job?
So I called it quits at the day job about 2 years into this, or 1.5 years, 2 years into this. So I went full time with this back in that would have been beginning of 2019 now,
Okay.
or early 2020, I think it was. Yeah, my years are all mixed up.
COVID will do that to you.
Yeah. That's right. So yeah, but it was at that point where I'm like, all right, I'm making enough money here to where I can comfortably part with where I'm at right now. And honestly, that was a huge catalyst to my business spiking because it was one of those things where I'm putting, a decent amount of time into my day job, probably more into my side job, because it was more fun. But it was just one of those things where I think it was a mindset freeing my mindset where I'm like, all right, now I'm 100% in. I don't have that safety net, which I was always grateful for. And now it's really time to turn on the afterburners. If I'm going to make this work and this is really truly what it's going to scale into what I believe it can be, now's the time to do it. So, and it's funny how every time it's scary to pull out your safety net, but once you pull it, it just, for me, it took off.
Yeah, well, you free up, like you said, that mental bandwidth and all those hours in the week to not have to be working for somebody else. You're like, okay, now we
Yep.
can pour some fuel on this fire. Was there a revenue target or a monthly recurring revenue target that you're like, okay, now I'm good. This could be my full time thing.
For me, that was a monthly revenue target around that point was I think it was about $6,000, $6,500 in revenue a month. Which for me, with my, in this digital business, there's an extremely low overhead. So that was enough for me to leave a couple bucks into the business and still pay myself the wage that myself and my family needed to have coming from me. It was, we were scraping the bottom for a couple months there, especially when I first started this, my wife and I had just bought our first house. We just found out we were pregnant with our first kid. So it was hairy for a while. And then when I first went out and really did this on my own, I was like, okay, we might have a couple uncomfortable months, but what I had in the pipeline and what came to fruition all worked out really well.
I know several guests have mentioned the baby effect of like, well, nothing like a 9 month deadline to spark some motivation. So I got to make this work. I
Yep.
got to have to buy some
That's,
diapers and some daycare here pretty quick. So let's do
yep.
this.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, I found the same thing. Like early on in our kid's life, I called it like much less productive, but much more effective. Like, as the hours available got really squeezed, it's like, okay, cutting out all this other stuff that just maybe is not as important. And it takes that like moment of clarity to say, okay, no, if you only have this amount of time, then this is what's going to get done. One thing,
Yep.
Brien, that you mentioned was, this personal touch, people do business with people. And some people would argue that's kind of a trap in the freelance space. If you get into, selling your own expertise, like, I'm hiring Brien, I'm not hiring Ricochet DM. I'm like, I want to work with you. How have you combated that to, expand to having your Google ads expert, to having like other people on your team who are maybe equally or better qualified to do the work, but, they're not the face of the brand?
Right. So the way I have it structured right now, and it's as an entrepreneur, I'm always trying to live 1 year in the future so that I can plan and have my business where I want it to be 1 year from now. When it comes to client relations versus fulfillment, that's where I brought on my assistant. She does a fantastic job of basically doing the fulfillment work. So everything from the ad creation, the practicing of it, where I reserve my time for business development and client relations. So I'm still the person that my clients are talking to. And across the board, I've found that a lot of clients, or they've either come to me this way, or my current clients say, we really enjoy having the communications be with one guy, and it's the owner. And we know he knows what he's doing, even if he has helpers that are, helping to produce the work. He's the one that we're contacting. If there's ever an issue, we're calling Brien. If we're,
Okay.
if we have questions, we're emailing Brien. There's going to come a time where I'm not going to be able to be the single face of this business on every single account. I'm going to have to build a culture in this company where there's probably going to be client relations involved for those who are doing the work, or at least, a dedicated client manager who their job is being what I'm doing right now. But that has been, it's something that there will come a time where I need to start mapping out how to handle that, because there's only so much time in the day. And a lot of times, client things come up where there's a short timetable, or they need something quickly. And if I'm out, if I'm at a business conference, or if I'm out meeting with prospects or meeting with other clients, I like to take my clients out to lunch once a quarter,
Okay.
just to have a sit down and catch up. If they're local to me, I like to sit down and catch up with them, buy them a lunch or buy them a drink, and check in with them. And those who are not local to me, I like to have a little Zoom with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, But yeah, so there's going to come a time where it's going to be harder to do that. But for the time being, in our client caseload right now, I love being the client relations guy too.
Okay, and so your assistant, they're coming up with the ad copy, they're doing the graphics, they're doing all that stuff, and they're setting up those campaigns.
Yep. So essentially, what my assistant does on the fulfillment side is the copywriting, with input from me as well. But like I said, my assistant is so talented. I think she's an even better copywriter than I am in a lot of junctures. Like, my goal is to hire people who are even better at doing the work than I am. Right. So yeah, the copywriting, typically on the ad creative, the images and videos, we rely on our client to provide that to us.
Okay.
Because we're not in their business every single day. We're not the social media manager that's there with the iPhone taking the pictures of the special of the day, or the newest offer or what have you. So we typically try to have an open dialogue and file with them to use for ad creatives. And then my assistant also handles the ad monitoring. So we have an ad out there. Is it performing well? Is it not? What kind of changes based on, is the CPM high? Okay, that tells us that Facebook doesn't really like our ad the way it sits. Maybe we need to change up the copy, get a little bit more engagement on it. Is the CTR really low? All right, that means our image is, probably crappy. We need to change the image or start using a video, or vice versa. So, is our CTR really high, but where our conversions on our landing page is really low? We need to fix our landing page. So that's the type of stuff that she handles, first and foremost, and then brings me in when needed, or if there's other things that I want to bring to the account. We'll have our weekly meetings and hash those things out.
Okay, like a weekly or monthly kind of monitoring cadence or reporting cadence to say what's working, what's not working, what do we need to tweak, and keep things
Yeah.
moving forward there.
Yeah. And that's in addition to, I report to all my clients every Monday morning on how the last week went. So
Gotcha.
that's
Yeah.
part of my open dialogue with clients, is a weekly email that says, hey, here's typically the top two stats that you need to know about your ads this week. And if everything is good, we're great. We'll say, hey, we're doing well this week. We're going to let these puppies keep running. Or we say, look, this ad, we tanked here, or there's a change based on the data that we want to make. Here's how we're going to make it. Then we're going to let this run this week, or in the next few days, run a split test or what have you. And we just keep them abreast of everything. We keep that communication door open.
Yeah, this was something that Jeff DiOrio from Elite Chess mentioned recently, which I thought was really cool. And a similar, like, recurring revenue business, in his case, teaching chess to school age kids, versus running Facebook ads for businesses. But to keep people coming back month after month after month was like, how do I give them a sense of progress? And it sounds like same idea here with these weekly reporting. Here's what's working. Here are the metrics that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how we're doing for you, right? So it's like, not like,
Yep.
hey, these people just they took my money and ran, and I never hear from them again. So
Right.
just trying to keep in touch there.
It's very
Anything?
easy to do that in this business, for sure, because there are a lot of agencies where you meet with them on day one, set everything up, and then you don't hear from maybe for a month, 2 months. And a lot of clients I have are like, we never heard from, we didn't know. I'll ask them, what was your ROI? And they'd be like, I have no idea.
Yeah. um, Anything on the tools and tech side that makes your life easier that you swear by?
Yeah, so probably the biggest one would be Zapier. For We use that for our local lead gen. So, for example, in our event lead gen, it's an awesome automation system that will line up with a Facebook lead form ad. So when an end user submits their name, email, and phone number with which to be followed up, from there Zapier automates the lead information. It drops it in a Google spreadsheet so we can track it, and it timestamps it. And then from there, it sends a text message and or email, depending on what the client chooses, directly to them within 5 minutes. So that way, if I'm sitting at my desk as a wedding coordinator and a lead comes in, a couple minutes later, I get a text on my phone. It says John Doe at johndoe@gmail.com. Here's his number. All that coordinator has to do is click that text, it pulls it right up on their phone, and they can follow up with him quickly. So Zapier is probably our favorite one to use, most commonly used for lead automation.
Mistakes or surprises along the way? Anything you do differently if you had to start over?
The biggest thing for me was getting over the fear, the imposter syndrome, first of all, but then the fear of putting myself out there for client acquisition. If I were to start over, I would really try and start really hot and heavy into just trying to have no fear going out there. Putting out to the world what I do and how well I do it and how I can help you. Um, I think that my biggest mistake was just being afraid. It took me 11 months, and I will freely admit that most of that was me being afraid to really put out there what I could do, battling the imposter syndrome, even though I had proven to myself that I can do this. I had a friend of mine who was a real estate agent. He let me run ads for him. He covered the ad spend, but I worked for him for free
Yeah,
just to really prove to myself that I could generate leads, in this case for a real estate agent. But even after that, it's like, I really need to convince people that I can do this. But at the end of the day, it was convincing myself that I can do it.
totally. I think it's very natural, at least from my perspective too, to have the confidence to say, I can do this and I am awesome at it. And oh, by the way, it's $1,500 a month, maybe. It's like, so I like this strategy of, hey, maybe I could find a pro bono client, get in some reps and kind of level up. That's what my wife and her partner did in their photography business, starting out with ridiculously low rates and then kind of leveling up as they felt more and more comfortable, like as that imposter syndrome kind of got, pushed down, pushed away a little bit. But
Yep.
appreciate you sharing that. Brien, where are you taking this thing? What's next for you and for Ricochet?
My motto this year is 2022 is the year of scaling. So that's where I'm bringing on help in business development, to where I'm not just going to be relying on my referral network. Because while referral network business is fantastic, your conversion rates are always going to be higher with that. I don't think it's a great way to scale or scale faster. So we're bringing on a partner to help us in business development on the Ricochet side. And then there's an opportunity that I have that it's still very much in the infancy stages, but the possibility of doing what I do in automotive and bringing that into a completely new entity. So this automotive piece is running ads on behalf of car dealers to a piece of financial tech that helps people shop by payment. And I've been doing this really well. This is my longest tenured client in this space, and I'm looking to bring this to the automotive industry on a much larger scale, and then growing this into being a one-stop digital marketing shop for automotive dealers, whether they're independent, smaller local dealers, all the way up to larger franchise dealers.
There you go. An illustration that opportunities become visible once you're already in motion, and you never know where these conversations lead, and side hustles on side hustles. I love it. Um,
Yep.
Brien, really appreciate you joining me. RicochetDM.com is where you can find him. Let's wrap this thing up with your number one tip for Side Hustle Nation.
Do something, no matter how little, at least once a day, that is going to help you get closer to your goal. Whether it's, a side hustle, learning a new skill to apply to a side hustle, whether it's reading a chapter in a book, or, taking watching 5 minutes of a course that you're a part of, doing something, minimum one small thing, even if it's a couple minutes every single day, and using basically the effect of compound interest. The more you do, even in small bits, the more you're going to learn, the more confidence you're going to build. And once you have that higher confidence, you're going to be able to go out and produce this service or product on a much deeper level. So for me, my whole thing was, I have no plan B. There's going to be no quitting at this. And Mike and Bobby always taught me, if you do one small thing every single day, then you're gonna over time, it's gonna build and build and build, and it's definitely come true for me.
Yeah, I like that call to leverage some compound interest, stack up these incremental gains and really make it a habit, because otherwise
Mm-hmm.
you might look at your calendar and say, well, I'm never going to have this uninterrupted 36-hour block of time to get this done. But like you said, you can start chipping away at that one day at a time. And I really appreciate that call to make some daily progress towards your goal. So again, Brien, thanks so much for joining me, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. I appreciate you having me on.
You bet.